we know how important it is around mental health, wellness. It's not just for athletes, it's for everyone in the corporate environment, and it's become a massive area of interest for so many people in the last few years. And it's something we need to talk about more. And I'm very privileged and very humbled today to be able to speak with an absolute legend in this area, Matt Vaughan. So without further ado, let's get stuck in right now and get some absolute gold nuggets of how all of us can have better health, wellness, and better wellbeing. Let's dive straight into it. First of all, there's another good-looking chicken right here on the video in front of me. Matt Vaughan, all the way from Christchurch. It's like where the Anzac spirit is living alive and well today between Sydney and Christchurch. So, mate, thank you very much, first of all, for jumping on board. I'm really privileged to be able to speak with you today, buddy.
Thanks, Jason, mate. Super. I'm pumped to be on here with you. Look, we've been connected via, obviously, LinkedIn for a little while. And it's fantastic to be here to support what we're both trying to do at the same time. So thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Now, I don't really have rules, but because it's an Aussie talking to a Kiwi, I've got to be able to say we're not allowed to talk about rugby, okay? Because that's a taboo subject for us at the moment. But we're okay at the moment to talk about cricket, all right? So if that's all right, because we're now back the #1 Test nation, so we're okay to talk about that, all right? So, no, it's all good, mate. Hey, if I can, let me jump in. I think I just want to sort of pre-frame this podcast as a little bit. Obviously, you're a health expert, a wellness expert, a fitness expert. You've got a really big drive in around health, mental well-being, particularly now in the corporate industry. But I think it's really important for people to really understand your background as well. You're not a professor. You haven't just got the academic background. You're not going to start talking about stats and graphs and that type of thing. But so I think to understand your background as to who you are, where you came from, the connection from, Christchurch and New Zealand through to, playing rugby in the UK for years and then back into Melbourne and things like that, and now back into New Zealand. I think it's really important that people understand that, your background and your experience and those type of things really have shaped and shown a lot and things like that. So do you want to just give us a quick rundown if you can? It's a bit of a autobiography type scenario just for 60 seconds or so about that journey, if that's okay.
Absolutely, Jason. Yep, fantastic. Well, I'm actually going to preface this with actually saying, in terms of the science talk and all that sort of stuff and all my background with studies and so forth, that didn't happen until well after school. I was the person that failed absolutely everything at school, even PE.
Nice.
Woodwork. I got
you went to Scott. What is it? What was it? St. Scott's or whatever it was. Where'd you go to?
Oh, no. Maybe I shouldn't say what school I went to after that, but
but you were like the rugby player, the cricket player, and yet you failed PE. God love it, hey?
Yeah, and I was good at it, but I just couldn't learn back then. But let's get away from that topic pretty quickly. But look, my background, I'm a very proud Kiwi. Let's just say that. But I'm from New Zealand. Everyone that I talk to, like, they're very proud of where they come from. But I honestly believe that what's made me even prouder, not so much about being a Kiwi, but after living in the UK for 11 years and then living in Anzac territory in Australia for 8 years, my biggest growth has come from being around different communities, multicultural society living, being around different mentors, learning all the time. And it's from putting yourself into those backgrounds. And I wasn't the standard sort of Kiwi or Aussie who went to the UK and lived with more Kiwis and Aussies for the 2 years and just ripped it up.
Yeah.
I worked
behind a bar and had some fun and met some ladies and things like that. It wasn't really like that, no.
No, my background is completely different. I really dived into the culture of English living, or Scotland, when I was there for 2.5 years, 8 years down in London. And then, fantastically, I got to move to Melbourne And that's where things really took off for many other reasons. But in terms of getting into the wellness side of things, I started coach at 21 years old over in Scotland when I was a rugby development officer. That's where it really started. And then from there, I really found out how much I loved coaching I found out that I was hanging around the strength and conditioning coaches, the physios, the coaches, the managers. And I just started developing my own things within sport to start with. And then, as we'll talk about a little bit later on, I blossomed into more the health and wellness with corporates as well.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, I pick up on a couple of things there. One, you spoke 2 or maybe 3 times specifically about some of the people that you learnt from and those type of avenues. And it's not so much, I guess, I'm not so worried about the names of the people and that type of stuff, but it's the interesting fact that there seems to be a really heavy undertone there of yourself always wanting to learn from others, looking for success clues from other people. You spoke about, that you tended to, hang around the strength and conditioning coaches early on, or the physios early on, and, other coaches. You started to really learn from other people. Do you feel that that's been a really, that constant feel of needing to improve and be better and learn and that type of stuff? Do you feel like, was it just me, or do you feel like that's a bit of one of the big things that you've learned to do over the years?
Absolutely. And that will never change. I will never change that part of me. You know what they say, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around.
Yeah.
And I'm evidence of that because, as I say, at school, I really struggled with the learning, how you learned back then. Look, I'm 41. So it was a long time ago. I was at school, and the systems they had back then have definitely changed a lot back now. But the people, I learn a lot differently. I learn by watching, my visual looks and so forth. Your auditory as well. I love to take in things. So I tend to do a lot of audio books and things like that. I'm massive into my personal development. But,
Fantastic.
I learned to pass a rugby ball and kick a rugby ball and bowl a cricket ball and hit a tennis ball and so forth by consuming it and then wanting to be like that. So I mimicked a lot, and that's one of my coaching. That's how I take in a lot of my coaching skills and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's fantastic. And what you just said then about, you're only as smart as the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. It's actually something I did say to my wife quite a few years ago when we had three girls under the age of 5. And I don't think it went down too well the day that I threw that out there as a bit of tongue in cheek. But yes, no, it's very true. And I always go back to people like Jim Rohn and that as well. He always used to say that success leaves clues. And I think if we have that mentality of always learning, always developing, look at what works, what doesn't work, how, why are some people more successful? It's going to leave us open to obviously innovation, creation, better opportunities. And, I'm always a big professor that we have to be able to grow people personally, not just professionally. And I think that works really well across in the whole health and medical spectrum as well. It's great that you hold that in place. So let's talk more into the sort of the health and the wellness side of things as well. I'm really interested to dive into that. Why do you think it became sort of more your passion and the area of focus? Was there anything in particular that sort of drove you to that area, or was it just more that you saw what was being said and done? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's 2 reasons actually. The first being my clients. So the clients that I was actually coaching for years in Melbourne, they just kept on saying to me, you're giving more than what we really need. And my personality, or I enjoyed being in front of lots of people as well. And they sort of picked up on it. I thrived in group situations. I love to educate. And when you're educating and you're connecting, you've built that like, know, and trust factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
People start to actually then do the stuff that you talk about. And they don't just do it because you talk about it. They watch you. And we're in a digital world now. We are not just in the face-to-face world. We are so much in the digital world that, let's say I am this person on LinkedIn or Instagram, but then you meet me and I'm a completely different person, completely, like almost the opposites. And it's out there. If you are that person, you'll get caught out.
Absolutely. That lack of congruency, right? Like you can't hide it. You can't You know, that old adage that we, you know, like when I was younger, I used to hear things like, you know, fake it till you make it. And for me, I'm like, these days, like in the last probably 5 to 10 years in particular, you can't. Back when I was at school, you probably could, but then you didn't really even have social media back then. So it was a completely different avenue, wasn't it? But you're 100% right. It's a very interesting part that it's that. So, okay. So that was the first part. What was the second part that got you really heavily involved, do you think?
Well, far out. I mean, just I guess coaching teams and so forth as well. And then also understanding that health and well-being isn't just about push, pull, run, agility and stuff like that. There's so much more to it. I mean, I don't like to throw out sort of cliche words out there, you know, like the holistical view, because often, you know, people say that and then they don't back it up. But I really do look at things in such a different way. If people were to look at how I look after me, how I look after my physical state, they would go, "What? Is that all you do?" And I say, "Yes, that is all I do." Like, I concentrate more on my walking than I do my any long distance runs or any time in the gym. Like 4 times in the gym a week, no more than 45 minutes, sometimes only 25 minutes. But I concentrate heavily on the stuff that really influences a lot, which is around your rest, you know, your nutrition, your hydration, and taking into account everything that's happening out in the world. So that's where the real gold nuggets are. And what I do is with science, I dull it down so it's really basic, bite-sized stuff, and I, you know, feed that to people. And again, it's up to me to build the connection first and foremost, and it's up to them to then take action from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of right, really critical with what you said a few minutes ago as well in regards to that whole scenario about you, different people learn in different ways. But you made reference to the fact that you can obviously, you know, tell people this. You can say and do whatever you want, but ultimately, people. I mean, I'm not gonna. It's hard because people do still do as they're told as such. But the more you tell people, the more you start to find that people don't do because you tell them, right? It's about what they see. It's really how you make them feel. You know, we start talking about know, like, trust, and people really aren't going to respond or be accountable or do what, you know, you're ultimately needing them to do until there's trust, until they see the result, until they actually believe what they're seeing, right? Otherwise, it'd be so easy to just tell, try and force people to do. But we know that when we tell people and try and force people, the responsibility isn't there and their accountability doesn't go through either, does it?
Absolutely. Look, I talk about identity a lot. You know, we're proud fathers, you know, and because of that, if I was to tell my son to do stuff all the time and then me not back it up with my actions, he would then start to break away from me. We wouldn't build that trust connection. Yeah. So I do tell my son to do certain things, but it's around the basics. He sees dad do this. He sees dad do that, you know, and he just watches. I see him watch. I see his brain take over. And that's how most humans are these days. They love to hear certain nuggets, but at the same time, are you doing it? And if I do that, you know, you create your identity. If you want to be the healthy person, if you want to be that nice person, how do you do that? It's through actions. It's not through words.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying there about your son is it's exactly the same in the business world, right? The corporate world, or, you know, in the health and medical industry and that as well. You've got to, it's literally has to be a do as I do moment, not just a do as I say moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to back it up.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of your focus these days is in the wellness industry. It's corporate wellness. It's working with people's mental health and things like that. You know, obviously a bit of a sort of a specialty and things like that. Any particular reasons why, or is it more just what you sort of saw and felt, or where you felt you could make, you know, the biggest sort of difference, I guess?
Yeah, I guess you often, I think when you get into business and you start building your own business, you're either going to do one or two things. You're going to copy what someone else is doing, or you're going to see a gap in the market and you're going to push down that way. Which one is a little bit easier? if you just mimic someone else. The other one is finding out where there's a bit of a hole, i.e. gap, and you want to sort of plug that, and you want to put your own personal brand within that. So I guess I got into that, and look, I did a poll on LinkedIn just last week, and because one of those things is, mental health is so important to me. I've been in my own darkest days as well. When you're a single dad and you've gone through divorce and so forth and things like that, there in Melbourne, where there's no family and no support, you find yourself just figuring out far out, what can I do to get out of this? And you're sort of digging the trenches a little bit, trying to get through. And that's just what happens, let's just talk about it. It's easy to say that built my resilience in that space. Okay. But going back to business, it's about, I just saw that I didn't want to be the ambulance at the bottom of the hill when it comes to workplace wellness. I wanted to be the person at the top who can really give some people that support, that they can see me as the person to lean on, and they can get to some up-to-date information on really what is going on out there. And look, I've got the privilege of, I started MV Corporate Health in Melbourne, big city, lots of people, lots of businesses. Things were really starting to pick up, but then with COVID that kicked in, that split me and my son up, and long story short, I didn't get to see him for 9 months. I just had to pack up everything. I was not going to miss Christmas with my boy.
Yeah.
Literally packed up, sold up, come back to New Zealand, 2 suitcases, and spent Christmas with my boy, most importantly, but then kickstarted it here in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, awesome. So let me throw a bit of a curly one at you. If I had to put you on the spot right now and say something like, or ask, what would be, if you had to give 2 absolute your best gold nuggets, your best tips? I know I'm being very general with this as well, but what would you say would be 2 amazing gold nuggets for around health and well-being, mental health type of thing for business owners right now? What would they be?
Yeah, easy. Build
Okay,
your culture.
perfect. What was that? Sorry.
Build your culture within your business.
Yeah.
How do you do that? It's about creating a safe space, and personally developing your staff. That's my number one. And the second one would be around sort of, upping their capabilities, really finding out where your team's capabilities are. Because when people figure out where they're at, or managers find out where their teams are at, you can just see the stress start to decrease a little bit. When you can't constantly stress test someone all the time. So you need to figure out where their capabilities are, and then either improve them, and that's where you come into the personal development side of things. But building that culture where they feel that they can speak up, that they can come to you, and when they feel that they can give, you can give them your time. Your time is so precious. So again, culture within the business that really looks after your team's mental health, and looking at their capabilities and seeing where you can also help them. They're real 2 good tips to help with your team.
Yeah, awesome. So what I'm going to actually do, if it's all right with you, we're going to sort of finish up the podcast with that, because that's obviously pretty powerful. But if it's okay with you, I'd love to be able to have you on for another podcast, because I want to dive deeper into exactly what you just said then, and actually look at some of the different modalities and methods to actually work with, not just with the team and the culture, but also working personally with your team. I always say team, not staff. We're trying to, build people up, and some of those crucial tactics that you use. So if that's all right with you, I'd love to be able to have you on again and dive into that. But mate, just from me personally and everyone, I think what you've done, where you've been, and the area of which you're able to give back has helped so many people. It's something that's super valuable. And mate, keep up the great work, Matt. Really love seeing what you're doing and pioneering with, particularly now in New Zealand after your successes in Melbourne, mate. And hey, thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for helping out and getting everyone in a much better place to excel and change more lives and have more impact.
Awesome, Jason, mate. Such a privilege. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, mate. I'll talk to you very soon.
See you, mate.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Profitable Practice Podcast. I would love nothing more than for you to be able to leave a review. I get so much joy out of listening and reading the amazing things that you guys say about this. So please subscribe to our channel, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's get some more fantastic information out there so all of us can grow the industry together. Cheers for now.